We learned so much so quickly, but it was such a wonderful space to learn it in, and it really was validating. Like I guess like up until that point, we've been in business for a few years, but it was almost an imposter syndrome of like, I'm at home in my pajamas every day working on this, but to go into an office space and see the product myself instead of it just arriving at my door was just like, oh wow, look at what we've built. Like this is it.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, an Amazon top 25 best-selling author known for writing kick-butt heroines and delicious men in dark romantic worlds. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome. Here, we're dedicated to interviewing fellow authors and professionals within the publishing industry in hopes to offer you inspiration, resources, and guidance into leveling up your career. Today, I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to Megan, and owner of a very well-loved book box subscription, FaeCrate. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
thank you for jumping on. I know, unfortunately, we don't have Brittany, the co-owner, on today, but I am so excited to have you on here because I feel like this is going to be a really different angle for a lot of people within the industry to see what happens behind everything that you've built today. So, can you take me back to the start as to how FakeRate even became an idea and how you went in creating a business out of it?
Sure. So Brittany and I started out as friends. Brittany owned her own shirt and merch shop for a book community, and I was one of her reps actually. So we were reps for a while, and we actually have more team members on our team that were also reps at that time. And this was several years ago. There's a book event here called Y'all Fest that's pretty popular, and I really wanted to go. It was our first time, and we decided to go together, and this is the first time we'd ever met. I drove like to another state and just got in her car, and we went to several other states. Like there were so many serial killer opportunities in there. I'm very glad it worked out well, but we went to the event, and we were both talking about how we both had wanted individually to start a book box. At that time there were a couple, but not so much coordinated to like exactly our reading tastes, which of course I've subscribed to several, and I still do subscribe to several of other boxes. There's so many great business models out there, and each one of them just coordinates very differently with their titles. And so we just wanted something that was built a little bit more to what titles that we liked. Um, so we had both been talking about it, but it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so much work for just one person. And at that time, Brittany had one child. I was in my senior year of college. And so it just was kind of like blown off. And a week later, I want to say after we got back from Y'all Fest, she called me and she's like, how serious were you if you had another person? Would you be willing to do it? And she found out she was pregnant with her second child. And she was like, I'd rather, like looking at it, like, I know it's like a rough time with finishing college and everything, but like, if we do it together, let's do it. And so we started it together. It was very nerve wracking because again, it was last year of college. She was having another child. It was a lot, but it was very fun. Our first box we packed out of my house, and we had no concept of like how much stuff was needed. Like we had crinkle paper on in the inside, and I ran out of the crinkle paper, and I had to send my husband to find. It was Easter at the time, and he went and got us neon green Easter grass, and that's what we had to use to finish packing the boxes. But it was a wild adventure. And yeah, so we started just by kind of just being friends and chatting, and yeah, that's where it comes from.
So, how did you go then? I imagine there would have been so many hurdles because there are so many different elements that go into book boxes as it is. And it's all about, attention to detail and just that whole incredible magical experience of opening it up. And for those who got the green Easter, rabbit straw stuff, that was very limited edition. So hang on, bang on. I hope you kept it. I hope you kept it as a souvenir. When when did you start noticing the momentum for it that you realized there was quickly demand and you you had to grow. Like this is a business. This isn't just sort of happening. This is happening and we need to go hard now.
It actually happened extremely quickly. Within like we sold out very quickly of our first box. Our first one we were like, we're really hoping we can even get 100, and it was like 250 the first time when I was just like, it blew us away. But we didn't really grow so much as a team and really like trying to stretch it until a little bit later. Because at first, also our first boxes, even though we sold out of them, we were dividing things wrong, which we found out the hard way, like it wasn't profiting off of the first couple of boxes because we were like, oh, that was a very obvious thing we should have been accounting for, and we weren't, all of these learning hurdles. But it was very quickly. I only packed from my house a couple of months before we switched to outsourcing our fulfillment. So that already was such a large thing because I just couldn't keep up with how many would need to be packed. My postal service worker hated me. Um, she hated to see my name pop up for a pickup. But we switched out to a fulfillment center, and that helped a little bit. But there's only so many projects that we could plan just between the two of us. I mean, we started the company in April of 2018, and I graduated in November, and I went full time after that. Like it was that fast that it wasn't just a necessity on full time, but we were making the money to go full time. And so quickly after that, we already had our first team members join. I mean, we weren't expecting just how quick it was. I mean, we weren't expecting it to just be like extra money either. The goal was to become a full company, but we were not expecting it to take off just as quickly as it did. So we were very grateful. And it was also for any of the people that have been on Instagram for a long time, it was before the algorithm shift. And so everything was wonderful. The social medias were taking off. It was like 100 followers a day, and then the shift happened, and we're all just trying to figure out what's going on there.
To be fair, let's still celebrate the fact that you have on Instagram 100,000 plus followers. Like you and your crate are just so well loved. And all I'm hearing is exponential growth. And that can be really intense to handle and manage, especially as you're learning along the way. I'm very curious as to how you started outsourcing because that in itself is a very scary thing because it's really difficult to find the right person or the right resource. How did you go about finding the right people for that?
When we first started Googling where fulfillment centers were, our first fulfillment center actually was not a great experience. It was a pretty popular one too. We had seen other like not book companies, but like other companies in general, like start outsourcing towards them. Like they had a lot of places to list that they outsourced, and so we were like, okay, they've got names behind them. Let's go to them. And it was fine, but it wasn't great. And so our first experience with that was like, they weren't sending us updates on when things were received. So it would say received, but they wouldn't tell us it was there. They weren't quality checking things because it was just like I guess they had so many people that they just weren't going through. We weren't getting updates when we were supposed to. Everything was delayed. And so we switched to a smaller company. We kept searching and kept looking because we were having a horrible time. And we switched to a smaller company that built their systems to what we did. They had never worked with a subscription box before. And so they talked to us about what we needed, and we're still not to the end of what we are now. But we talked to them. They worked with us in our systems, and they were better, but it still wasn't what we needed. They were still getting backed up. They were a smaller team. They were better at sending us updates and everything, but it still wasn't what we needed. They didn't have like the focus on our company to get things out on time. And especially with a company like ours, and I'm sure other boxes can attest to this too, with so many pieces coming in, sometimes we're waiting on one piece. And if it gets delayed past the original window when they had it scheduled to be able to pack it, And then it arrives a week later. They were already, it was that week that they had the space, but now they don't have as many people to help work on it. And so it's even slower getting out. So we got a call. I had just moved across the country about 4 years ago. And I wasn't even here a month before we got a call saying that our fulfillment center was going to be shutting down. And they were like, you can either move all of your stuff to another fulfillment center or you can send it to yourself. And so I, newly to the area, I didn't know. I still open the GPS, and it's been 4 years, like to get anywhere. And I looked into some sites here that like provided the equipment that you'd need, like forklifts and things like that, and without having to like buy everything from the beginning. And tried to find somewhere with the resources already that we needed, that we can basically pay like an apartment, like, you know, a rent, and they have everything we need. And the first person that I went to, it was wonderful. A woman took me around, which I already felt safer in because I was so scared of going into a warehouse area, especially from where I'm from. Is a lot conservative area where a lot of men are like, "Hey, darling, let me help you out with that. You don't know what you're doing." And I was afraid of that, you know. I had a woman walk me around. Everything felt very safe. They had office spaces, they had warehouse spaces. We got an office as well for our team to start actually having an office instead of working directly from their house. And so it was just me and one other person packing everything for a couple of months and trying to keep up on everything that had gotten delayed, from them closing, them shipping, us putting it where it goes. Like it was a time, and it was just two of us. And then very quickly we were able to hire new people in the area. It was a whole thing with interview processes. But I mean, honestly, out of all of those things, self-fulfillment has been the most wonderful experience because we know what we need. And it's also lovely to be able to have those team members brought on as well for us directly, and no other companies. I don't think that, had it been a different type of business model, I think any of the other two would have been fine. But I think just with something with so many like SKUs and different like items to ship out, it's just too much for companies that aren't used to that type of product. But yeah.
That is mind blowing. And I absolutely love the groundwork that you had to do in this from the very
Oh,
beginning.
I'm forklift certified. That's something I like to pull out of my hat every time I talk about having to learn this.
No, it's correct. A lot of people actually don't know this about me, but I actually used to do logistics management. So I am sort of aware, like I'm not forklift savvy, but I can tell people to do the forklift stuff. But there's so many things happening as well in the warehouse, like when it comes to health and safety and all of these other elements that go into it. Did you have any experience for this before you went in, or you're growing, you're doing what you need to do to be where the book box had to be at the time?
Oh, it was me and our current logistics manager. We had to learn so much. We had crash courses in like OSHA laws, everything up here of like what's the safety parameters, everything. We both had to learn how to do the forklift. Luckily, we had seen the systems of both of these outsourced fulfillment centers. And so we were able to have like a base knowledge of like, okay, we need this kind of information because this is what we wanted from them. So they weren't able to do it. The physicality of putting everything in for the first time was the most nightmare because everything was disorganized when it got to us. We had a lot of old stuff that needed to be taken out that was supposed to have already been gotten rid of. But we learned so much so quickly. But it was such a wonderful space to learn it in. And it really was validating. Like I guess like up until that point, you know, we've been in business for a few years, but it was almost an imposter syndrome of like, you know, I'm at home in my pajamas every day working on this, but to go into an office space and see the product myself instead of it just arriving at my door was just like, oh wow, look at what we've built. Like this is it. So it was worth it to learn, even though it was so quick. We didn't know anything in the beginning, but all of the people who were at the warehouse were very helpful. They taught us things. The first time we accidentally used someone else's palette thing because we thought it was part of the company. And they're like, no, you have to get that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Everyone was very polite and wonderful. And it made the whole process like not so lonely. So that was really wonderful. And though it was stressful to have to learn it so quickly, and like I was going for a purely remote position to working in a warehouse every day and doing my remote jobs, I still had to go home and do everything that was supposed to be done on top of it. But it was, I don't know, it was satisfying in a way that it was just kind of like we did this, and we figured it out.
I want to touch a little bit on imposter syndrome because it's something I really advocate, especially for women on the channel, because after interviewing 160 plus people, I've noticed that a lot of us women are a little bit more coy, perhaps, about our successes, and men are like, yeah, testosterone, we knew it was going to work out. And that's fantastic. I wish we had more of that. So, were there any moments that you really considered, are we sure that we want to do this or continue this? That when it became too much, there was a conversation between you and Brittany, perhaps, that you're like, I don't know, dude, I don't know. Is this really, really what we want to do? Or were you just all in and you're like, I know it's really tough at the moment, but we know we can do this?
Yes. Well, first off, on the imposter syndrome, yes, on women, I rant all of the time about. Still to this day, I'll talk to grown men, and I get asked like, "What do you do?" It's just the polite thing to ask, and as soon as I say what I do, it's this glazed over kind of like, oh, how cute kind of look. And then you just kind of, yes, exactly. And it's just like, it makes you want to just start like spitting numbers or something. But I'm just like, I'm above it. Like, I don't need this. I don't need your validation for what I do, but it is maddening. I would say COVID was a really hard time. We were growing very quickly, and COVID had this jerk in the very point, the first part where we had all of this stock to go forward in what we were growing. Like we would grow ever so many each box, and then all of a sudden that growth just stopped because the world stopped. And so we had so much unsold stock for several boxes. And all it takes in that type of situation is like 3 or 4 boxes not selling the way it is, and you are very low. It never got to a point where it was like we were worried about paying anyone out or anything like that. That was never the issue, but it was very scary. And it's the first time that we had ever done something like that. And, there's a lot of pressure to that, all of the people that are on our team, we love our team so much. And like, we've made like a family out of this. And there's a lot of pressure of making sure that I know that a lot of livelihoods depend on this company doing well. And just the thought of them taking a chance on a small business and it not working out was terrifying. But it was kind of like the moment where we were just like, no, we're going to figure this out. Like, we can do this. It's a really crappy situation, but we can figure it out. And we looked into a lot of local resources on how to figure out like how to move forward, things like that. At this point in time, we had no business credit, anything like that. Like, we had done everything. We're on a pre-sale base. So we've never needed like credit lines, loans, anything, which was great. It actually is a great type of thing. And we were able to do like a small credit line thing to get us through a couple of weeks. We got right back out of it, and we've never had to use it since then, but there was a point in time that we were very scared. Like, a lot of small businesses had to close down during COVID. It was an awful time. We saw restaurants, friends, like shops, like you just like no one had the money to be spending on extra things that they wanted anymore. But it was that initial start of COVID that had the big bump because, I mean, shortly after that, that's whenever reading blew through the roof because everyone was at home. But it was the first couple of months that really hurt. And there were many late nights of us on the phone being like, what do we do? What do we do? And we just kept looking up until we figured it out because we're like, we're not going to stop. Like, we can get past it. We already see it recovering. We just have to actually recover from this little quarter right here. So it was scary, but we figured it out and we pulled it all together and we're like, we're not going to let this take us down, you know.
And that's so good to hear. Like COVID for a lot of people was a massive obstacle, but also in that time, there's been a lot of authors that budded in that time too. So grateful for that, grateful for their journey that came out of that. Um, there's so many different things that go into a box set. Honestly, I tip my hat off to you because I personally I've done some, none as grand or as incredible as yours either. And there's so many elements that go into it. And so I'm kind of curious if you have advice for authors who are listening as to places where they should start when it comes to thinking about the individual elements. And also, I think one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is the pricing, because when you put all of those elements in together, it's expensive. We're spending thousands of dollars, and you need to make sure that you're not just breaking even, but you're actually making a profit on that as well. So, do you have any advice for authors who are perhaps looking at maybe doing one for their paperbacks or anything like that as to where to even start looking at the right place?
When we first started, we started with a lot of local vendors, which is lovely to be able to work with. But usually those are going to be your highest priced items and stuff because it's just one single person putting the hours in. Sometimes having something really special like that inside brings like a touch of like, you know, you've got like a touch of love in it, I guess. But we eventually, with our quantities going up, we had to move pretty quickly to, you know, I remember one of our first sites was like, you know, it was the old like foreign print and like discount mugs, like these type of sites and stuff that had regular promo materials that you branded. I think at one point in time there was something like, you know, a lot of people branch into a site called Alibaba, which has a lot of great vendors that you're able to come in with your idea and say, I want to do this from my book. Give me quotes, and this is how many I need. And I think that actually, for something that's used so vastly between so many different people, a lot of people don't know about it. And it's a great way to get quotes from different companies on like your quantities, because a lot of these boxes from authors too, especially, are lower quantities. And so when you're trying to do lower quantities, it jacks the price up on a lot of things. I would also suggest maybe even doing a questionnaire of what your specific viewers and like fan base would be interested in having. You know, we were having a lot of paper materials inside, and a lot of our people didn't want paper materials anymore. And so we stopped supplying as many paper materials and started upping like how much budget we can put into the couple of items that we have in a box. And then sometimes trying to figure out different ways of like, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have the box be absolutely gorgeous. A lot of people aren't going to pay attention to the box, like cut the costs on where you don't necessarily need it. You know, it's great to want all of the packaging and everything to be absolutely beautiful, but at the end of it, people might not end up even like the box is going to go. Some of them don't even show videos of the box, you know. And I know we do have like, we love our box and everything. We've always had branding, but if it's like a one time for one book and stuff, focus on the insides of what you're doing. And then just like I think that the surveys are very important, because if you reveal what's going to be in the box and then they're like, I'm not actually really interested in this, you waste all of this money. And then even I've seen a lot of authors doing like the interest before, of saying like, what, like, here's what I'm thinking, and getting the interest where they can get a general interest idea on how many numbers you can get, because a lot of this you might be able to get a great number, but because you went even 50 over, that's a lot of money for like 50 boxes out of from one person, you know. So keeping like, I really think I would say getting the interest beforehand, and then figuring out making sure your budget can work, because you don't have to break the bank to make a good box of something that someone wants. It doesn't have to have a million things in it. They want the book, you want to accent a couple of things. And I think we just, in general, all of us want to just overcompensate for what we think will sell it and stuff, but they will come for I mean, I've seen so many right now just doing the special edition of just changing the cover and it's coming with a bookmark and everyone's like, look at the new cover art, like, yeah, the interest, I think that is the interest beforehand, before you purchase everything that you need is a very big deal. And it seems like a small thing, but like I said, 50 extras can kill you and you still had 100, but then you have like a third of it not sold.
I absolutely love this advice too, because, for a lot of authors, budget, we're all very conscious of it as well. And then you do have the option as well. I've had a couple interviews previously talking about Kickstarter,
Mhm.
which helps you gain that interest too. So I think that's fantastic advice. Thank you. I want to talk about your box sets. So we have the regular subscription and we also have Opus. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. What's the difference and what do you usually expect from both of them?
So our monthly box, we actually recently switched starting in September. We used to have merch more included in our boxes, and we've separated to having, and then we were also having like a mixture of upper YA to adult titles. But what kind of mixed that up is just kind of like anything lower YA or to adult was kind of like mixing things for people that wanted the opposite. And so we separated and book only for both of those. So there's no more merch in the monthly boxes. It also helps guarantee that the books themselves will not get dinged up in shipping and transit because there's no extra items kind of going in. And so those are monthly subscriptions. And then we will have next year, we're starting kind of like these little collections of items like individually. So people will be able to actually select what they want opposed to, the mystery side of things. But the Opus collection are box sets most of the time. Sometimes they won't have the slipcase if we are continuing a series or we will continue in the future. Um, but it's where this is like our passion projects. Like we love our monthly books, but a lot of these are, their debut authors. We're trying to help launch a lot of new names or new series. And Opus projects are things that like series that have been out. We either want to celebrate something that's been out for a long time, or hey, I've been keeping up with this series and it's about to end. Let's do the whole thing all together. And we usually have a lot more flexibility also with our Opus collection, because I don't know if many people know, but in monthly boxes, different publishers act different ways towards like selling, hitting certain numbers. Like there are certain publishers that we haven't even been able to work with yet because of their licensing, like the numbers that they need to hit for that or the information that they need. And we want to make sure we can ship internationally to everyone too. I know some boxes have said you can use a forwarding service for your monthly boxes, and we didn't want to limit our international customers. So we only work with certain publishers and indie authors that allow us to ship everywhere. For our Opus collection, we have more of the freedom to work with other publishers, but say you might need a forwarding service for this one time or something like that. But we might have to limit some things more. But the Opus collection, we get to pull out all of the stops with this one because it's a one-time purchase, and so we can adjust prices as needed. We can really go out with all of the artists and everything. We have new jackets, we have new hardcovers, in pages, slipcase, like you name it. We try to put everything into it. And like I said, it's the passion project of, there's series that I've read when I was younger that I was obsessed with that got me into reading. And now I'm like, hey, would you like a special edition? Because no one's done these covers again since they've been out. And it's just really exciting to be able to do that because the box world wasn't here for all of these authors. It skipped so many people.
It's so exciting. I've had similar experiences to that as a teenager. There's authors that you love, and then being able to meet them and sit with them as equals as an author, and just That's so exciting that you're now in a position where you can do that. I absolutely love that. And I absolutely have to do a shout out as well because I actually purchased one of your Opus collections for a very dear author friend of mine, Opal Rain, and they are absolutely stunning. Like they're the shimmer covers and they're just so beautifully designed. So yeah, I just had
Oh,
to.
thank you. I was the project manager for that one.
Well, you
I
did
love Opal.
you did an okay job. So like
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And honestly, my favorite part of the job has always been outside of the authors is the artwork of being able to create the artwork and see, like, visualize the things that, every time you read the book, you're like, God, I wish I could see this. I wish I could see it and stuff. So being able to work with such incredible artists. And then Opal is just literally a gem. Like, they are so incredible. And I just really love being able to, like, work with people and really try to show them, like, I love your book and I want to do them justice. Like, I'm not here just trying to make a penny off of you, like, I really want to, like, celebrate this with you.
And so ironically, Opal's actually coming over after this interview. She's helping me build shelves because I'm useless. But
I
and
love that.
she was excited when I told her that I was getting you on here and interviewing you. And I can say firsthand as well, I met you at Babe at the after party, and it's just you're so refreshing in that regard as well. You can tell that you absolutely love what you do. You're passionate about bringing these books to life in a different way. And it shows. It shows in the product that you produce as well. So maybe I'm slightly biased in that, but I absolutely love what you do. And thank you for what you're doing because you're making a lot of readers happy with their book.
No, thank you.
What is the step by step? So if an author is interested in working or collaborating with FaeCrate, how do they show their interest? And what if they are selected to collaborate? What's sort of the basic, I guess, step by step that they can expect to go through with you?
Yeah, so right now we have interest forms under, we have a link in our bio in Instagram, but they're also on our website. So you can be, like, on how to work with us, and there's a link for each thing broken down. It could be a monthly book, it can be the Opus collection. We even have, like, for different artists if they want to apply to work with us. Um, Based off of what you're trying to do. So our monthly boxes, we usually need it to be like uh, for traditional publish, it needs to be within, like, 3 months of release when we have it in the box. So we need to know well in advance. But for indie publish, we usually open it up, I mean, up to 6 to 8 months after the release, because we know that sometimes those files aren't ready until right before the release. And we don't want to not include somebody just because, that system is built different and they, like, you might not have the same type of resources as TradPub, being able to edit your books and everything. So we open up the window for that so that our monthly boxes either need to be the first in a series or standalone. And so if that's where it falls into the category and it's within it and it hasn't come out yet, then you would apply there and put the information in. And then for the Opus collection, it can be either a completed series or when it's going to complete. And so you can put the information in. Like, I don't even care if it's like it's going to complete in 2027, 2028, and put it in. I put all of that on a file and I keep it organized of when it's coming in. And I even update regularly on, like, how, like, when I'm seeing things pop up and everything. We really keep an eye on the series as they grow as well. Because, we love to watch that base. We love to start, like, really getting engaged with that base, like, before we even, like, get everything going. And most of the time I'm a fangirl myself while I'm going through them. And I'm like, I read this first book and it was amazing. And I'm watching you, like, so many times I've just been, like, watching an account being like, I'm just waiting for more information on when this is going to end. And I'm going to be coming after you. But we go through those regularly. And just if you're not contacted immediately, that doesn't mean anything. That, like, we're constantly looking at these. I mean, one of the series that I'm including next year first started coming out in the 90s. So, yeah, but yes, she's very well known. And then we have multiple project managers with different tastes. And so they pull from the list as needed. And sometimes it's like, hey, we had 4 dark romance series back to back. We need to move to something different for a little bit so that we can make sure that we keep the bases covered on what type of books that we're including. So just because something isn't pulled immediately or your book has released since then, that doesn't mean anything. Once we do review it, like we all of us are constantly having a list of what we're reviewing next, what we have next. And we're constantly updating our Opus consideration list and our monthly list. When we do like the book or the series or anything, usually I'll send out an interest inquiry first. So I'll send it, before I send like a whole spiel on an offer being like, hey, this project manager read the series, absolutely loved it, read all 3 in 2 days. Like, we would love to work with you. Are you currently working on a special edition of the set? Which doesn't mean that we won't do it. We just like to be aware of what, scheduling and everything. And is there even interest in working in a special edition set first? Because we want to make sure, like, we're not sending a cold email with a whole offer right off of the bat. We want to talk to you first, be like, hey, I like what you're putting down. Can I pick it up? But once we get that interest being like, oh yes, this is, my plans for the future. Sometimes they're like, I'll have signing special editions, but that's it. I'd love to hear more. At that point, that's when I'll send a broken down offer. And I usually try to put everything. We don't like people ever wondering about anything, any aspect of this. We want it to be very clear and what's going on. You know how much you get paid per book, which is the same across the board. How much you get paid per book, when we have an estimated timeline of when we're trying to do it, exactly when you're going to get paid, which is before any book ships out, because we even have it contracted that nothing will leave our facility until you are paid. Because we know how many, we've watched boxes close, we've watched boxes ship things, we've seen horrible things happening with authors, and we just want you to know from the very first email, like, you are our priority. It says in the beginning that we are an anti-generative AI company, that not only will your work itself not be placed into anything, but none of our artwork that's created, everything's contracted with no AI. And nothing, no artists, no sketches, no complete pieces get the green light until after you approve it. So every single artist you ever see with any of our special editions have been ran by the author. It's been approved. The sketches, the final work with the design, everything's been approved before it goes through. Because like we said, the author is our first and top priority of making sure, like, this is your work. We are here to platform you. So the contract has all of this detailed. And I'm like, if you're interested in moving forward, I can send you a draft of the contract. And the contract goes into that same information. It covers free author copies, the anti-AI, everything. And, ask me any questions you want. From there, you get set up on Basecamp with your project manager, because we have several different project managers. I'm usually the one you'll talk to if we contract, because it's just good to keep one kind of person moving forward. I will pass you off to your project manager, or me. You'll still remain with me. And from there, they go through the whole process of sending you artist ideas. You'll get mood boards from half of us, up Pinterest boards from other half of us. We all have different, creative processes on how we design things. And the exciting part happens there. We start getting the sketches in, we get the artwork, everything gets edits as needed. And yeah, then we get the books ready to go. And it's just, honestly, the art part is always my favorite. Because then I love seeing the authors being like just squealing through the interwebs of just being like, oh my God, they look so good. But yeah, that's
honestly, all of this is so incredible. And I really want to put in perspective as well for those who are listening. If you haven't experienced with a book box yet, it can be a bit rough. I'm not gonna lie. And like, for example, I personally have had not so great experiences with certain book boxes because they haven't been transparent in these, or you haven't, as an author, been able to have too much I want to say or be a part of the experience, which is always nice. And I absolutely love not only how passionate you are and your company about the entire experience, but also you guys just want to create the magic. Like it's really exciting. To be honest, it's probably why you guys are at the top of the game right now. Like in my opinion. But it's very refreshing to hear about that transparency and that process as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I will put the website down below for anyone who does want to inquire or show their interest in that collaboration. All of this is very valuable, and whether it is or isn't going into a book box itself, your understanding of the industry and the different elements that go into it is exceptional. And I'm really enjoying this interview because I think there's just so many eggs that people can get out of this. So thank you for taking the time to share your experience with us. It's incredible. I want to talk about social media because
Oh,
it
good.
tricky beast that we all struggle to manage. As you mentioned before, Instagram algorithm has changed. It's really difficult sometimes to pivot and understand what's happening. So what are some of the foundations that have really worked for you on social media?
When we first started, it was just me and Brittany. I was taking photos. Brittany was doing any of the design for it and everything. And like I said, back then, Instagram was in its heyday. It was wonderful. It kind of didn't matter what you posted. You were going to do great. You know, it's like, you're doing great, sweetie. That was it. It's not like that anymore. We are trying to constantly stay on top of what they are actually boosting for. And that can be frustrating sometimes because Instagram, started as a photo app and now they really only boost reels. And that can be really frustrating because this isn't what we started on. But I think it's important to find what they are pushing and adapting to it. So some of our reveals that we were doing, if we post it as an image, most of the time it's not going to do well. If we post it as a reel and it's the same content, it's going to do infinitely better. And keeping up with the new updates as they come because Instagram, this is just Instagram specific right now, they're going to prioritize their new rollouts because they want them to do well. So right now, the repost action, I would suggest reposting your own post in the beginning and then just undoing it before because I've even seen it on my own. Everything that I repost from FaeCrate, I'll go to my personal and back to back, there they all are. When before, even from my personal, I wouldn't see FaeCrate's post. That's insane because as of right now, I think Instagram across the board, no matter what the accounts are being shown to like 2-3% of your followers, which is you know, and they're like, thanks, Instagram, that's what I wanted. But really staying on top of the features, collaborating posts are a big thing that they're pushing on. TikTok, frequency. TikTok is frequency, which right now we don't have. We just hired 2 new people just to do TikTok. Well, not just to do TikTok, but on their social media side of their job is to do TikTok. Because you can honestly even be repeatedly posting some of the same content a couple of weeks later, and it doesn't matter as long as you're posting regularly. They will pay attention to you, and it'll prioritize your things. Um, Threads, I love Threads. I think Threads is the place of chaos and you can do whatever you want on Threads. Honestly, I get on Threads and it has nothing to do with FaeCrate. I vented about K-pop Demon Hunters for ages. And we got so many followers and interest in our other posts because it's just, I mean, honestly, everything happens on there and I just love it. But like I said, just staying with the different rules of everything. And it doesn't have to be like, even before we hire, we have the ability to hire people to create new content. But say I'm talking to an author or something, you don't have to come up with new things for every single thing. TikTok and Instagram, they both prioritize the videos. Make the same videos and put them on both spots. Repost the same one on TikTok a month later. It's going to be just fine. And half the people that saw the first one isn't going to see the second one. And it's going to be fine. You don't have to like run yourself ragged to get the content that you need. if you're an author and you have the capability of having a broadcast channel, I'd suggest doing the broadcast channel. That one can be very helpful. And a newsletter. I think that people really, they think that newsletters are outdated. It is the only thing that will 100% make it to the source that signed up for it. And I still look through all of the newsletters of the things that I signed up for, not the things I didn't sign up for. But I think newsletters are seriously underrated and forgotten about because they're not a big thing with social media. But we generate a lot of our sales through sending the updates on newsletters. So yeah, I know I rambled a lot about that, but
There were some great tips in there for each social media as well. And I do want to circle back to the fact that really focusing on your newsletter is important. And I cannot stress this enough. And I've said it on previous episodes as well. But I was fortunate enough to have my Facebook and my Instagram social medias gone. Like they just vanished one night. So I have been now, it's been probably about 18 months of rebuilding those social media
oh
platforms.
my
That was
gosh.
a rude awakening for me to make sure that I'm dependent on my newsletter because once they're gone, they're gone. And I had no
Mhm.
other way to contact my readers. And now I do depend on my newsletter. Don't get me wrong, my social medias have been growing. Thank you, Reels on Instagram mostly up until, same thing up until a
Yeah.
couple of months ago. I was like, never mind. Nice. Thanks for trying. But
Oh my god.
it's fine. Like it's fine, she says with a
I'm
tear.
gonna have nightmares about that. Jesus.
Sorry, I also had my Amazon account terminated once too. So every obstacle that you could imagine has happened. But I also genuinely am kind of grateful to those experiences. And it kind of sounds very similar for yourself as well, because sometimes learning is the only way. You have to go through it. And when you go through it, it just makes you so much more aware of how important it is. Granted, I don't like the grays that came from the situation or the stress level and the mental breakdowns alongside it, but it makes you reshift and prioritize what you really need to focus on and what's genuinely going to help your business. We've been talking a lot about hiring new teams, hiring new members, and at this point, I feel like you probably have an army behind you in the FaeCrate world because it's hard to find the right people. And I'm sure, or maybe you haven't had the same experience, but sometimes not everyone is the right fit as well. So, what are some of the things that you've learnt in finding the right person for the right role and aligning with the vision that you have with FaeCrate?
So each time of the last few people we've hired, at the beginning, it started from, we hired the person that was in the rep team with me for Brittany because she grew with us. She stayed in contact with us. She had just started designing her own stuff, and she's grown, and she's one of our main designers today, and been with us since like the beginning of the company. We'd fall apart without you, Liz. But some of these people came to us naturally, organically, like our social media manager, our Royal Marketing Director. He was a rep for us at first, and he was so wonderful. And we were literally about to put out a listing for a job, and he just emailed us before and was like, "I don't know if you're hiring, but here is my resume," and like slid, and it was, I mean, he was exactly what we were looking for. So we didn't even open up for the position. And it was just like, fell right into our lap. Not everything is that lucky, yeah. But when we do our interview processes, it's very important to us that we connect to our employees, our potential employees, on a heart level, because there are plenty of people that apply to us that might have every single thing we are looking for, and it doesn't click just right with us. And like, nothing is being said that's wrong. It just doesn't have the same type of spark that happens. And then some people might not have everything that we need, but we can see the genuine potential, and that spark hits. And I'm like, I really think that you would be the biggest cheerleader, and you'd be willing to learn whatever you need to do to get the job. And in return, we will make sure that we treat you well as well, because it's not just, in these interviews, I'm not just interviewing you. Like, we need to be worthy of you wanting to work with us. Um, But I think, you know, as much as everything on paper might look right with someone, I think a lot of it is chemistry and feeling like they are going to like care about your team and your baby as much as you are. Like I imagine it's like looking for a PA or something like that and trying to find somebody who will care enough and you're not just somebody to schedule in and make content for, because you're going to feel that in the videos. You're going to feel that in anything that's typed up. You need someone that cares, and it might take a little bit more work with teaching them the right things that you need, but they're going to do it because they care. um but yeah, if something doesn't work out, that always sucks, especially whenever it's like, you know, smaller teams or even just an author looking for a single person. It's so personal, and those type of things, every person is personal, and that doesn't go away. I think it's just finding that heart, and that's just so important. And I think it's more important than having everything that is just listed on paper, right?
I 100% agree with this. As I said, I did years of management, and and everyone's different. So, you know, it's not to say that we're 100% right, but we are. But attitude is not something that you can change, is the one thing that I found. And this is again just personal experience. But as you said, somebody may have all the skill sets that you need, but if they don't have the right attitude, then you will be feeling that in over the next few months as well. So I think, as you said, you refer to it as heart, I refer to it as attitude, but you get that feeling as to whether somebody's they're really wanting to be a part of the team, and you can see them a part of the team. So thank you for that advice. I have had so much fun with you being on here today, and yeah, I've just had the absolute best time. Thank you so much for going into so much detail as well, for sharing your wisdom and your passion. Like, that's one thing I love about you, is you are so passionate about this, and it really shows in what you're producing. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll get you back on and see where you guys are at.
Thank you for having me. I've had so much fun.
Thank you. Well, if anyone has any questions, always put them below. And if there are any authors or professionals that you'd love to see from the industry, let me know and put it in the comments. But until next time, guys, bye.